I hope you guys like Homer, because this week we are talking all about him. The ancient dead Greek dude, not the cartoon character that should died about a decade ago. We are jumping into the Masters Edition because we're covering the last of the modules for Mystara, at least for the Masters Edition. And the first module in this line was Into the Maelstrom, which is very obviously the Odyssey. So brush up on your ancient Greek epics, because we are diving into creating the second oldest book in human history. I'm Mr. Welch, and welcome to Mystara. Into the Maelstrom was written in 85 by Bruce and Beatrice Hurd, and you might recognize Bruce as the driving force behind Mystara. The cover art is Jeff Easley in one of his more famous pieces. Valerie Valasek returns to do the interior art. Now, this module is for characters of at least 25th level, so by this time, you're very well-established characters, and you're going to need them because this is the same adventure that took Odysseus 10 years to finish. I would say spoilers, but this is one of the most famous adventures in human history. Just about every single major event that happened in the epic is present in the module. If any of your players have taken Humanities, they will know what's going to happen next as soon as they realize what this module is copying, and it's not going to do them any good. They've had almost 3,000 years to read the Odyssey, so the spoilers tags has long since fallen off. The Odyssey was no cakewalk, and neither is Into the Maelstrom, so Western lit majors be warned, your advanced knowledge will not save you. The module is actually part of the Norworld cycle, with a breakaway Alphatian province causing trouble for other parts of the Empire. The party is given a fleet of some rather large size and sent to reign in the breakaway province. Of course, he claims innocence, and it's up to you to whether or not to believe him. On the way back, you get sucked into the Maelstrom, and it sends you to the Star Kingdoms, where you drift around in space from space island to space island. The story initially involves Theaetus and Alphatia hating each other and trying to grab more territory, but that's a bit of a distraction, as when you think you've solved the problem, suddenly you're in a Greek epic. There are a few differences between the Odyssey and this module. Instead of a single ship, you have a fleet under your control. Keeping your men alive is a major point of the module, and it's one of the most difficult aspects of it. You've got hundreds of crew, and you're playing in an adventure that was one guy away from a TPK when it was first written. You're going to lose crew. Let me rephrase that. You're going to hemorrhage crew. Ships will sink, men will starve, and every island you land on is going to try to kill you. Don't get too attached to a good chunk of the NPCs. The main difference is your ships are flying through space after getting sucked through the Maelstrom. Instead of the Lotus Eaters, you meet the Zonga Eaters. Same difference. The premise is that this is the rubble of the planet the Alphatians originally came from. For once, the module cover actually shows you what's going on in the module itself, with the three rival immortals manipulating the party to get what they want. The party is getting used as pawns in a much larger game, but that's kind of how stories like this go. Now, there's a lot of proxies for the famous bits of the Odyssey that you're going to discover. Instead of the Cyclops, it's a gigantic beholder. Scylla and Charybdis become a hydra and a vortex to the plane of water. Instead of sheep sacred to Athena, you get turkeys sacred to Vanya. The sirens are replaced by hags with the same hunger and song. This is a meat grinder of a module, and it is unapologetically so. You get rewarded for saving your crew's lives, and you're going to earn every reward you're able to acquire. Now, the module isn't just rerunning the Odyssey. There are more ports to it than that at the end. There's surviving Alphatian cities still floating around in the abyss, and you're going to have to negotiate or fight them to get out of the abyss. There's a dungeon crawl at the end of the module, as you get to defeat the minions of the chaotic immortal that's been making your characters' lives miserable, but that part's pretty brief. And because this is a Bruce Hurd module, there's going to be skyships. In this case, an entire fleet of skyships floating in the void. After you get sucked through the Maelstrom, your ships are floating in a surprisingly breathable void, but with no way of steering. Fortunately for you, the first place you come across has magical silk hanging on trees that will allow your fleet to steer in the void. And you're going to need that because there's a lot of things in this module that eat ships. The biggest addition the module gives as far as hard rules is to expand the War Machine rules into Sea Machine. In addition to the mass warfare rules, it covers most of the aspects of naval combat. As the technology base in Mystara goes from everything from late Roman to early Renaissance, it does cover quite a few ships. It is fairly generic, so you don't have to work out every ship in the fleet, and it handles ship and crew losses with some math and a die roll. It's a bit complicated figuring out fleet losses, so run a few scenarios in your head before you play with it. The module lets your characters know that they have made it. You are now epic level, and everything is suddenly bigger. Your characters survive attacks that maul lesser armies. Your enemies are biggers. Balors, aka the Roaring Demon, show up and attack you. Giants are 4 times their size. Beholders are the size of boulders. Entire nations attempt to stop your fleet. You're in the big leagues. Even the pre-gen characters start off with tons of magic items and 500,000 gold pieces each. So compared to other D&D editions, this module is off the charts. Here be dragons. Now, the module is extremely difficult. There are more than a few no-win scenarios the party is going to have to flee if they're going to survive it. You might be only 11 levels away from immortality, but you're still mortal. The 3 competing immortals interfere with the adventure several times. One of them is trying to out-and-out kill you. The others require you to further their goals before they will help, so you have to think carefully on how to proceed in each encounter. There's a lot of encounters, so the opportunity to screw up is always present. For Mystara, the module is already set in place. There's quite a bit of mention about the Sphere of Death, which has always caused confusion because apparently it's a physical place as compared to the Sphere of Entropy, which is more of a school of thought. The Sphere of Death was never really clarified what it is. Apparently it's supposed to be some sort of outer plane dominated by undead, but it's really not that well laid out. It's not even mentioned in the Wrath of the Immortals. This does become a reoccurring issue with several more adventures mentioning it, but it's not explaining what it is either. If you wanted to set this into another world, it's got a magical portal to basically space Alphasia, so you just do some other adventure, then suck the party in with their fleet, and there you go. If you want to buy the module, you're in luck, because it's available online for less than $20 if you look. Master level modules are way above the level most people are used to playing at, so apparently there's not much of a demand for them. As usual, the PDFs will set you back $5. There's no print-on demands for it yet. And that wraps up into the Maelstrom. If you're familiar with the Odyssey, then you know what to expect in the module. Granted, if you're a party, you're going to have slightly more success than poor Odysseus, but you're going to watch as everybody around you meets a grisly death. This is true master-level adventuring. You're now dealing with extra-dimensional horrors. You have become the playthings of the Immortals, and you're being pushed into becoming an Immortal yourself. The range of the modules is well past 5th edition. That version gets to the Beck part of the old modules, but stops short of getting to the me part of Beck Me. So next week we're going to look at the sequel, M2, Vengeance of Alphax, because blowing up their secret volcano lair pisses off evil Immortals more than anything else. So until next time, remember to keep your evil lairs at least OSHA compliant.